Hi, my name is Mike. I'm with Just Press Play. Ruth invited me to be here today to speak about low voltage smart homes and mainly the importance of bringing your low voltage guy on early in the planning process when building a new home. Low voltage often gets overlooked until the end. It's something that people, by the way, you need to find someone to take care of your TV, your music, things like that. And in this day and age, there's a lot more that goes into low voltage than just putting a TV on the wall. Everything relies on the internet now, especially, think back with, I'm going to use COVID as an example when everyone was at home. You got your kids at home trying to do school virtually. You're trying to work on a Zoom meeting. Your son or daughter logs on. They're attending third grade. You got a work meeting you got to hop on, and all of a sudden your network crashes. Your child can't attend school. You can't work, and it's just mass frustration. Imagine, everything in your home relying on that and it not working properly. So network, something that requires planning, it requires running wires through a building. That's something that you need to plan ahead of time to make sure that the house is set for today's needs. Think about it, everything connects to the internet. Your televisions, your phones, appliances, we've done homes with smart dishwashers and refrigerators. And, I had a client, he was really, really excited about this new stove that he got that could connect to the internet. He said, I can put a roast in the oven before I leave for work. And when I'm on my way home, I can turn the oven on. And I'm thinking, yeah, crock pots have done that for 60, 70 years, but cool. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't understand some of what we do as far as the need for it. I'm not one of those guys that's going to go out to a home and tell people that they need to connect their coffee pot and whatever to the internet. But the thing is what we do is very personal, and everyone uses their home differently. And people will often ask, well, what should I do here? And I'm happy to make suggestions, but a lot of it is, how are you going to use your home? And as a builder, as a contractor, as a designer, you don't have a crystal ball. You can't tell people how they're going to be using the space that they're living in. They don't even know until they live there. I mean, it's a new environment. But the thing is, having a low voltage guy involved early on to work with the client or homeowner to help customize that home to their needs out of the gates is going to go a long way for making the whole thing smoother for everyone. Not only from a usage perspective, but also from a design perspective, things that your job is to make sure everyone has a beautiful home that they love and is personal to their tastes. You work with them to pick things out, to work with, their personal style or what they want. And we can help with a lot of that, from simple things like, lighting control. Lighting control goes so far beyond being able to turn your lights on and off from your phone. It's the ability to make the home do what you want as you want to do it. Have certain lights come on at sunset. Me, for example, I have my house set where it'll turn lights on at sunset. It'll turn certain lights off at dawn. I've got it programmed to do things like if I come home after dark, it uses the GPS on my phone and it automatically lights up my garage, the mudroom, the foyer. So I'm not walking into a dark house. I have keypads in my house that are set to do things. Like I have children at home that leave lights on. I'm sure you can identify with, did little Timmy turn the lights off in the basement? I don't even have to think about that. I have a button on my nightstand that says good night. And every night I look forward to pushing this button. I walk through the kitchen, I leave the lights on. I don't care if the lights are on in the living room. I walk right past the light switch in the hallway and I hit good night and the whole house shuts down. The lights that are programmed to be on, like the lights that I want on my front porch, the lights that I have, what do you call the lights on the side of the driveway? Carriage lights or coach lights? Coach lights. I want those to be on all night. So those are on a schedule, so those aren't going to turn off. But the lights in the basement that the kids left on, the light switch that I walk past, turns my fan on. Speed number 2 is my favorite speed. turns the lights off, turns the fan on, and I just go to sleep. I don't have to run around. The doors lock, everything. But there's more to it than the convenience. The aesthetics of it, when you have a large home, like, with kitchens, it's not uncommon to have 6, 7, 8 switches in a kitchen. You've got under cabinet lights, you've got island lights, you got a light over the sink. And before you know it, you've got this beautiful kitchen and you've got these great big boxes or banks of switches that you're like, well, what could I do with that? Automate it. We have the ability to get all of that onto a single keypad where you can walk into a room and I'm going to use Lutron as an example. They've got a popular keypad. It's the kitchen. It says bright dining cooking off. You can program scenes into it. So if I walk in and I tap bright, lights the kitchen up nice and bright. If I'm cooking, I tap the cooking button. I might turn the under cabinet lights on. I turn the lights on over the island, the light on over the stove. Dining, it can dim the lights in the kitchen, turn the lights up over the dining room table, and off obviously does off. But the whole idea is we can personalize it and consolidate things to give you a cleaner overall appearance, which a lot of people are really interested in with some of these new homes. And you can do a lot more to that. The whole point of automation is, like I said earlier, making the house do what you want when you want to do it. You don't want to run around and turn lights off. I'm going to give you an example. There's a client we just finished a home for in Birmingham. We did automated lights. We did automated window treatments. We did an audio system throughout the house. And this particular gentleman gets up 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. He likes waking up to natural sunlight. So I wrote a program for him. And what happens at 5:58 in the morning, the blinds in his bedroom open, they let natural sunlight in. At 6 o'clock, like when he gets up, I have the lights in his bathroom set to come on to 60%. So that's bright enough where you can see where you're going, but you're not walking in there covering your eyes because it's abrasive. And I also have it set to start playing his favorite music. So when he wakes up, the house is already how he wants it. The windows or the blinds open in his bedroom, the lights on in the bathroom, the music's playing on his favorite list. He can go in there, take a shower, do his business, and leave. And I have it set to turn off when he leaves at like 7:05. So 7:10, I have it turn the lights off. I have it make the music stop playing. It's simple things like that. And it sounds kind of silly to have that, but people love the convenience of having your house do what you want. Same with window treatments. How many times, like I did it in my own home because I had this large bay window behind a couch. And to open or close these blinds, I would have to stand up, I would have to climb over the couch, stand in the window, and pull 6 of these down. And what happened is it got to the point where I said, this is stupid. I'm going to pull them down halfway and never touch them again. And that's what I did until, you run into times you want to open or close them. And we eventually put the Lutron motorized ones in, and it's phenomenal. I can tap a button. They'll work with Alexa, Google, Siri. You can talk to them. A lot of the stuff that we use has the ability to integrate with third-party things. So, people have it where they can walk into their house and just say a command, and it'll, for most part, do exactly what they want it to do. So, yes. Of course, I love questions.
So I was just wondering if you have this all set up so that it comes on at this time every day. What if you are on vacation or you have the day off? Is it a quick and easy thing?
It's very simple. I mean, all of this runs through an app. And what we'll do is I'm rather unique as far as an integrator goes because I generally push people away from certain control systems. And the reason I do that is a lot of those control systems will make the homeowner very dependent on people to do things, make programming changes. So like Lutron, for example, if I was to set your home up, you would have an app on your phone where you can easily create scenes, schedules, you can adjust the time of things, you can create your own scenes, your own schedules. We're happy to help you, but I don't want to put you in a position where you're locked out and you don't have the ability to make some of these changes on your own. We're there to help if you need us. But with home or away, there's different scenes that you can run. There's home away mode where you can set the system to run on different programs and you can access it from anywhere. Like I could pull out my phone right now and tap a button and tell my house that I'm away. And what it'll do is it'll run a different schedule where it sort of intelligently randomizes lights in the home in the evening. Like you remember years ago, oh, I'm leaving, and you had these plug-in timers and you had to put the pins in and turn the dial. You don't have to do that anymore. It's all automated. And it uses the internet to get the time of the day. So it always knows what time it is. Yes. Well, if your power is out, if you have a generator, well, if you have no electricity, nothing's going to work anyways. If your regular lights won't work, TV, like nothing will, you need power for all of it. Yes. Sure.
Okay, so we have a power outage now. Thanks. You can stand up. So if you have a power outage.
Oh, I can hear you
okay,
better. Thank you.
I can understand that, it's mayhem. So
Sure.
what if the power comes back on? How does it reset? Does it reset itself?
It automatically resets. The
does?
programming is saved in the device itself.
Oh, okay.
And with a lot of this, you don't need a connection to the internet. So like if your Wi-Fi goes down, you're still going to be able to use most of the components of the system. You will not be able to control it from the app or the phone. If like, let's say there's a Comcast outage, that never happens. But let's say Comcast goes out, right? That doesn't mean that you lose control of your home. You lose the ability to control it from a phone, but you can still walk up to a keypad or a switch or a button and it'll still do its intended thing. If there's a program or a schedule set to run, it knows what time it is. It can't get an update time, but there's flash memory on it. So it'll still run the timed commands, like, oh, there's a light that's supposed to turn on or a window treatment that's supposed to close or move to a certain position.
So it won't be all crazy shades going up when the power comes back on.
Ideally, no.
Okay. Thanks.
Mike, I have a question.
Yes.
So one of the things as an interior designer we do is spec all of the lights, ceiling fans. Is there a good requirement we should be looking for as designers when speccing lights and ceiling fans in order to be compatible with home automation?
Lights generally are not a problem. Most of the nicer smart dimmers, so to speak, are going to be compatible with a wide range of LED, CFL, whatever type of ELV driver that you're using. Fans is something that you can run into trouble with. Actually, Ruth and I encountered this a while back on a project where we had spec'd Lutron lighting, and Lutron also has the ability to control fans for a project, and the fans that were selected were not fans that had the ability to be operated by anything other than the remote that they came with. So there was proprietary wiring involved. You had to use the controller, and it was a bit of an issue. We were able to come up with a workaround for it, but that's one of the things that you can run into problems with. If a client or homeowner says, hey, I want to be able to do this, and then a selection's made where those things aren't compatible, that's where early planning or communication on some of those things is helpful. So yes.
So I guess my question is, so is there something on the light fixtures now that will say compatible with Lutron, or how do you select?
It's not necessarily Lutron. I mean, it could be Savant, Control 4, Crestron lighting. It's going to be the same thing. With fans, for example, you need to have a fan that's able to be controlled by an actual wall switch. Have you seen those switches that have the speed controller built in where you can walk up, turn the fan on and off, and you can adjust the speed of the fan from the switch. Those are the ones, and this is going to apply to most controlled lighting systems. They need to have the ability to have the speed controlled by a standard switch. So the smart switch takes the place of that. What those speed control switches do is they will change the output going to the fan. So as you increase the voltage, the fan speed increases. So the switch does the same thing. When you have some of these fans that have to use their own controller, they just get wired straight to power, and the only way to change the speed on that motor is with the remote. Then you're going to run into complications. Some of them have the ability to do both. I know, they'll have a separate module that goes in line that'll take the place. And if you can eliminate that module that the remote works with and just wire the fan to the switch, that's what we do. So.
I have another question, Mike. What is the best time to bring you in on a job site? And what are some top 5 things that you can tell interior designers to call for you upon?
As far as the time to bring us in, I would say early as possible. One of the challenges that we run into is often actually budgeting. We're usually left off until the very end. The builder will come up with a budget for everything, and they'll usually leave us out. And I've had plenty of instances in the past where I will meet with a client, we'll walk through, we'll come up with a plan for, their audio, video, their lighting control, their network, all the fun stuff. And I'll put together a proposal for them, and they just kind of get deer in headlights, and they'll say, well, the builder only budgeted $5,000 for all of this. And that's not going to cover the pre-wire on a lot of these large homes. So then what happens is we have an uphill battle trying to get the homeowner what they want when they're having to come out of pocket for a lot of this, because the paperwork's all done, the bank's set, they're cutting checks for X, Y, and Z, and they left the AV out of the mix. So bringing us on early is important. The other thing, like I said, is with the design. If there's questions as far as the electrical layout goes, hey, I have this bank of switches, what can I do with it? Other things, there's a lot of a custom aspect to this. Like Ruth, for example, you saw you don't see them now, but the invisible speakers that we put in at Terry's. There's a lot of times where you'll have a client that wants music in a room, and they'll have detail on the wall, or they'll have a beautiful coffered ceiling, and you don't want to mess it up by putting, random round circles in the ceiling. So invisible speakers are a product that actually go in either with or before drywall. They get mudded and sanded and painted. You can wallpaper over them, and they're invisible, for lack of a better word. When they're properly installed, you cannot see them, but they sound phenomenal. And it's custom touches like that in some of these homes where you walk in, where is that coming from? And you don't have anything visible to take away from what you've done. It's awesome, and people love that. But there's other things that you can do other than the invisible speakers. We do a lot of custom audio as far as with TVs and sound bars and hiding things. Like 25 years ago, everybody wanted to see their AV equipment. Everybody had the big tower in the living room with their receiver and tuner and all the crap. And you had the speakers and everything. And now nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see it. You don't want to see it, but you want to use it. So there's a lot of times where we'll, say someone has a living room or a fireplace, and they want surround sound, but they don't want to see it. So we'll do things like use invisible speakers. We do custom sound bars that we have made to match the TV, where it all looks like one piece. Like the Samsung frame TVs. I know designers love frame TVs. Frame TVs are great if you plan for them. One of the issues that I personally have with frame TVs, they have a large external tuner that you have to deal with, and a lot of people don't realize that. One of the things that Samsung did to make the television so skinny is they took some of the guts out of the TV and they put those guts in a separate box. Samsung calls it the One Connect box. And it's great because it gives you the ability to have a thin TV with one cord that does both power and signal to the television, but all your components have to plug into that box. That box connects to the TV with a proprietary cable, and you have to use it. And a lot of times, if it's not planned for, what do we do with this box? You know, you've got this box that everything has to wire to, and you want to put this television over the fireplace. Well, what's the point of a frame TV if you can't put it flat to the wall? You don't want to have to space that out 2 inches and be able to look behind there and see everything. So, like, there's products that we can use that allow us to recess those into the wall to get the television flat. There's various enclosures, like you saw them over at Terry's house, where we have these boxes. They recess into the wall. They have power. We run network and video and whatever else to them. We can hide cable boxes or Apple TVs in them, and everything works like it was right in front of you, but it's hidden behind the TV. Now, there's instances like fireplaces, for example. A lot of times when a builder is doing a house, they'll frame the fireplace. They'll put the beam in real high, and then they say, well, when the fireplace selection's done, then we'll drop it down, because it's a lot easier to lower a header than raise one. Well, the challenge that you run into with that is that's a lot of additional framing. And when you want to put a frame TV up there and you have a box and all of this other stuff to contend with, sometimes you can't. So that goes into planning. So if we know ahead of time, we can help plan this stuff out to make sure that the home is perfect and you don't have random pieces of equipment. Oh, we had to put that there because we can't do this or we can't do that. Yes.
So is it really challenging then if you're doing a remodel, or you're just redoing a house, you're not doing a new build for retrofitting?
Remodels and retrofits are always more challenging than new construction. New construction's easy. There's no drywall up. I can see everything. In the instance where you have a remodel, which a lot of projects are, you know, there's a lot of challenges that you'll run into. You know, some of the homes could be 70, 80, 90 years old or more. They could have been remodeled in the past. There could be things like plumbing or other things buried in the wall that you can't see like you can on a pre-wire. I have been doing this since 1997, and I have run into everything. I'm not going to tell you that, oh, we can always make it work. Sometimes there's drywall repair involved. Sometimes there's extra things that need to be done. Retrofit work is always definitely going to be more challenging, but on newer homes, like anything made in the last 30 to 35 years, it's generally not an issue as long as there's access.
Along those lines, window treatments are often thought of at the tail end of a job as well.
Well,
And there's not wiring available.
That's
So how
the
do you
other
address
thing.
that?
If you're building a new home and automated window treatments are something that's been discussed, it's definitely a good idea to wire those. The window treatments obviously need power, and if you can wire for them, great. There are viable battery operated solutions. I know a lot of times people are, familiar with, oh, we got to change the batteries every 6 months, or, oh, these need to be plugged in, and hardwiring them will avoid that, but there are battery operated solutions. I know I keep saying Lutron. One of the things that I like about Lutron is their battery operated shades. They rate them, if you go up and down twice a day, 4 to 6 years on the average size window before the batteries need to be replaced. They are the most efficient drivers out there. And if you don't have the ability, or if wiring was missed, battery operated shades can be a perfectly viable option. And it's saved us more than once in instances where, oh, we want to add a window treatment like over this stairway where there's a 12-foot window. Well, I can't get a wire there without making a mess out of the drywall, and you're going to need to bring someone in to patch and paint and clean that up. Well, battery operated, it does work. Yes, you're going to see us in a few years to change batteries, or you can do it yourself. But it's not like the I can't think of the particular brand that we've been having trouble with, but we've had clients complain, oh, you know, we have to change the batteries every 3 months, or every so often we have to plug the blind in, and we have cords hanging all over the place. I like to avoid that sort of thing.
Do you have an example of what a good wiring job would look like that you could scroll through?
Yeah, I mean, it's wiring. I'm sure you guys have all seen projects that have been completed in the past where the wiring is a mess and things either don't work properly or they're hard to service. Let me see. I haven't really used the yes. Am I able to oh, you've seen this before. You've seen messes at clients' houses, and you know they'll complain that things aren't working. One of the things that's important about selecting the right low voltage guy is we're going to have a relationship with the client long after the fact. As you think about everything that they use in their home, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the stuff that we put in is perfect and flawless and they never have issues with it. That's completely untrue. But if you have someone that takes the time and the care to put a system together, to design it and spec it properly, to lay it out properly, and to program it and make it as reliable as it can be, that's the way to do it. And the homeowner or client is going to have the least amount of problems, and they're going to be happy with that. We operate exclusively on a referral basis. We don't advertise, we don't send out flyers, we don't email commercials, any of that. Our entire business is built entirely upon referrals. And the only way that we're going to get referrals is to make the client or the homeowner happy. If they're happy, they tell everybody. If they're not happy, they tell more people. And that's true. But we've been in business for almost 20 years purely off of referrals. And we'll get calls a lot of times. Oh, it's not clicking. So like this is an example of some of the messes that we've seen on projects. This is a home that we just redid in Birmingham. It took us almost 3 days to pull this apart and trace all of the wiring, but we pulled all of that out. And yeah, click, or sorry. Yeah, this is just some of the mess. And you can, yeah, there's two of my guys were pulling everything apart. And that's that same rack. I stripped it bare and we decided to start completely from scratch. So this is one of the things that I was talking about with planning. What do we do with all of the components? When we make these, we'll make a technical drawing, we'll lay all of the components out. You can go ahead and click through, and we'll start doing a lot of the wiring before the rack even goes into place. So you can click it. You can see like this rack and more wires are appearing. Go ahead. See how we have everything nice and neat and clean. The wires are labeled. There's still a lot of loose wires hanging, but like you can see right there in the middle where everything's tied in neatly. It looks like, hey, that's someone did. Yes. That is in a utility room in the basement. So there needs to be space left for equipment to run a home, but I don't want to put it in your living room or the laundry room. We can put all of this stuff kind of out of sight, out of mind. The idea is to have it so nobody ever really needs to access it other than for service. The client's not going down there and pushing buttons or putting things in or anything. Go ahead and click through. So this is the same rack. It's in progress. Go ahead. And then we're wiring it in. We have that rat's nest. This is the exact same home. Go ahead. And then that's the same rack when it's done. Go ahead. That looks a lot nicer than the before. And when you look at something like that, if you have a low voltage guy that can go in and clean up wiring or even do a job like that right out of the start, you know, someone who takes pride in their work is going to take the time to make the parts that people don't really look at seen. And if you look at that, most people looking at that say, oh, I know that this is going to work well. So it helps, it inspires confidence. If something on that needs to be serviced, it's all labeled. It's all neatly laid out. It's organized. If I need to replace an amp, I walk to the back. I can know exactly what cables to unplug. I don't have to worry about when they go. I slide the old one out, pop the new one in, plug it back in, and you're back in business. I don't have to spend hours trying to trace where everything goes. Go ahead and click through. But yeah, that's the back of the same one. I mean, you can see that the power is all neat. All the wires are neatly landed. There's cord wrap on them. They're labeled. Like I know where every single wire in that house goes. And when you look at something like this, like I said, I mean, you can tell, hey, that's going to work a lot better than the mess that you saw before. Go ahead and, you know, and then like, this is an example. This is new construction. You know, you can see that we've got all the components in there. There's a router, there's the network switches, there's amplifiers, there's an NVR there that does the surveillance cameras. Go ahead and click through. You know, you can see like the bundle of wires that feed the rack. Like we'll take the time to comb that out and make sure that it's nice and neat and you don't have this unsightly, you know, spaghetti hanging down from the wall or ceiling. Go ahead and, you know, you can see even inside the rack how the wires are, everything's cut to length and it's neat. And then on the front, when it's done, you know, it pushes back into the corner. You can see the components are on there. You can see the neatly organized wires going up to the ceiling. You know, something like that, when you have someone who takes pride in their work, it's nice to see everything come together. It works. You don't have as many service calls. A lot of the components that we use, I don't like doing smart home unless we own the network, so to speak. So a lot of the networks that we use, we have the ability to service them remotely. I can see if things are functioning. I can see if something needs an update, if something needs to be changed. I can't see what a client is doing. I can't see any websites that they go to. I can't spy on them, but I can see that the network and the components that we put in, I can say, hey, well, this needs an update and I can do it remotely. Oh, this device is frozen. I can reboot it remotely. And that's the other thing with a lot of these setups is we have them set so they're self-healing. Like you had asked earlier, what happens if the power goes out? Well, sometimes we need to make the power go out. When a device freezes 9 times out of 10, you can solve that by unplugging it, waiting a minute and plugging it back in. The challenge that you run into is when you have a rack full of equipment and something freezes, you don't want the homeowner to have to run downstairs and, oh, it's the third cord down on the ref with the orange. No, they're going to screw something up. So we use something called IP power. Think of it kind of like a power strip that connects to the internet where you can control individual outlets. So we'll program a system to scan. And if it says, oh, this particular component's frozen, let me test it again. Frozen. Try one more time. And what'll happen is if it doesn't get a response, it'll assume that device is frozen and it'll tell the outlet that device is plugged into to turn off. It'll wait 10 to 15 seconds and then it'll restore power to it. So it's doing the exact same thing as you going down there and pulling the cord, but it does it itself. It does it automatically. It does it generally before you even know that there's a problem because it monitors in real time and everything just works. And something like that has been amazing for my business, really, because it's cut down on service calls. 10 years ago, we would get a lot of calls and I would send a guy out and it would just be a matter of, oh, your cable box was frozen. I had to pull the cord. All right, well, this can do it automatically. And I'll think about it. Let's say we went to the trouble of putting one of those Samsung frame TVs up over a fireplace and the cable box is behind it. You don't want to have to, oh, the cable box froze. I have to get someone out to pull my TV down to reset it, or go down in the basement and start hitting breakers until you get it. People don't want to do that. So this IP power that I'm talking about gives you the ability to solve some of the issues that are created by hiding components. It's not like you've got a TV and a console in your living room where all the cable box is right underneath it. Hang on, it's frozen. It can do it automatically, or you can have the ability to do it from your phone. We provide homeowners with an app where if they need to reboot certain things, I can't tell if a cable box is frozen, for example, and the system can't, but so you'd have the ability to either reboot it from an app, or like what we did at Jim's house. He has these little buttons on the back of the television. So like if the Apple TV in his office freezes, he can walk up and just tap a button, and the Apple TV that's hidden behind there, it'll reboot without having to reach back there and start yanking cables, which nobody wants to do.
If I can speak to this, I had a client who is out of town all winter and had me go over during the power outage this spring. And I was able to call and within 5 minutes reboot the whole house and get everything up and running, and avoided a service call of someone having to come out to the house. So
Well,
even
it's-
me not knowing the system at all, I was able to call and walk through very easily with the
Yeah.
system.
And a lot of times when we set this up, it'll actually report back to us if there's an issue. Like it'll notify me, oh, X, Y, and Z is offline. Sometimes like if it's, oh, there's a Comcast outage, I can't help with that. I mean, you can reset stuff till you're blue in the face. You're not going to fix a Comcast issue. But outside of that, yeah, that's the nice thing about this, is being able to service it remotely. So this is a room here where there's invisible speakers. There's a speaker where the mouse is there. There's a speaker where the mouse is there. These are obviously after pictures, but like this room, for example, there's speakers where I have those red shapes crudely drawn. But that's the nice thing about this kind of speaker, is it doesn't take away from anything in the room. You can hear it. It sounds amazing, but there's nothing to look at. There's nothing to detract from your design or whatever you've come up with. And it's the same thing, like I was saying, with custom speakers and sound bars. We have the ability to match a lot of these speakers to a TV, so it all looks like one piece. Frame TVs, we have skinny, thin sound bars that blend in with a frame TV, and you don't have this piece of equipment that looks like it came off the shelf at Best Buy sitting on the mantle of a multi-million-dollar project that you're working on. Invisible speakers, Stealth are the brand that I generally recommend. They are, the LRX 83 is $1,800 a pair. So they're not the most, cost-effective speaker, but it's a solution where there's nothing else out there that's going to give you the look or lack of. Well, labor is going to depend on if it's a new construction or a retrofit product. That's actually for the pair of speakers, their necessary back boxes. And one of the things that I like about them is they have a 15-year warranty on them that covers labor and repair if something happens. So let's say we put a speaker in at a client's house, and 10 years from now that speaker blows. They will actually pay us to come out, cut it out, remove it, replace the speaker, and they'll pay to have the wall refinished. Yes, sir.
So in terms of the invisible speaker, say a client wants it located in their bathroom, so they listen to music while they shower.
No problem.
Even with the moisture that builds in there, not an issue?
No, I mean, as long as they're not hosing the ceiling or the walls down with the shower sprayer. We've put invisible speakers in bathrooms plenty of times. I would not put it in the shower itself, or certainly not in like a steam shower, but in the bathroom, no problem at all. It will not go through tile, ceramic. It will not go through stone, any type of, wood wood paneling or wainscoting. It needs to either be a painted drywall or plaster surface, and you can safely wallpaper over them without issue. But the control for it, we use Sonos for almost everything. Sonos is incredibly easy. It's a very intuitive app. It's reliable, and you can use it with whatever speakers you want. A lot of times people will think of Sonos and they think those little portable speakers or those interesting looking sound bars. We use that same technology to power our custom speakers. So you have the same experience. It's just as easy to use, but you don't have to look at, like I said earlier, something that looks like it sits on the shelf at Best Buy. So those components would go in a rack in a basement or on a shelf or a closet somewhere. And it's something that would be controlled with an app. So, you could pick living room and start playing whatever music you like. You can group it with other rooms. There's all kinds of things you can make it work with the television. So when you turn the TV on, television speakers are horrible. They've made them so small now. You've taken years ago, TVs had large bezels on them, or projection TVs. You had all that space below where they had room to house a decent sized speaker. And what's happened now is everybody wants the TV to be as thin as possible, and they want the smallest border they possibly can because they just want picture. That's great, but where's the sound going to come from? So they'll take these tiny little drivers, they put them on the back of the TV, and then you mount that TV on the wall. So you have this tiny little speaker firing away from people directly into the wall, and the sound is horrible. So that's one of the benefits of putting in a sound system. Other than being able to use it for music, it can make your TV and movie experience better, and all of it can serve double duty. So it can do both, and you can watch one thing, listen to something else. You can, if you got your television tied into it, we get a lot of people that love it for parties. Like they'll have a Super Bowl party, they'll have the game on the big TV, but then they'll have the sound grouped to other rooms in their house. So, say you're walking around the house, you can hear the game, or, whatever it is you want.